We've pulled together a film of 6 game-changing farmers across the Bay of Plenty. These farmers are innovators. They're doing really good stuff on their land, retiring and restoring steep slopes and vulnerable areas. They're learning to read their animals better, they're looking after the soil, and at the same time treading lighter on the land and reducing emissions. So come with us on this exciting journey from the Pongakawa on the coast of Bay of Plenty up to the heart of the Bay of Plenty around the lakes, around Lake Rotorua, Lake Okaraka and Lake Okaro. So come along with us and meet these great innovators and see what we've got in store for the Bay of Plenty.
So we're Will and Ann Nettlingham. We're dairy farming in the Bay of Plenty district and this farm here is at the top reaches of the Pongakawa River. So we historically were dairy farming on a Dairy NZ system 4 to 5 and we changed to a system 1 all grass. About 6 years ago we actually went once a day farming as well. In the recent years we've planted 15% of the farm in trees, exotics, pines, redwoods and natives, and we're hoping to plant up to another 3% of the farm. Our costs, because we are once a day and we have taken pressure off the farm, we have eliminated buying and feed, etc. and our bottom line's still very good. So we've reduced the cow numbers from over 800 down to 450. During that process we've got now what we call an elite herd because we've basically got rid of the lower end of our herd and they're performing really well on what was quite a marginal farm for dairy farming in the past. It was a huge leap of faith dropping cow numbers and also going on once a day as well, a few years previous. But when you start crunching the numbers, you could see all the inputs that we were putting in and all the stresses on the people and the staff and what have you. It just simplified everything. The numbers still work really well and there's a lot of non-tangible positives to having less pressure on the farm. We're more summer safe here now, because the Bay of Plenty can get very, very dry, not so much this year, but it certainly gives us more of a buffer zone, doesn't it, having that less pressure of cows.
And more confidence everything's going to go well.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win. We've found our sweet spot. It works for the cows, works for the land, works for us.
So we became involved with a catchment group called the Waikakapu project a few years ago, and we were blissfully unaware really of probably the impact we were having on the river and the little Waihi estuary downstream. So our involvement with the Waikakapu group was hugely beneficial for us. We didn't know a thing about trees. We were dairy farmers, not tree farmers, and we were put in contact with a whole lot of like-minded people, or we're all on the journey together, all with different aspects of the farm that would help the catchment and improve water quality, etc. But without Waikakapu and having that catchment involvement, we'd probably still be sitting on our hands wondering what to do and how to do it. Yeah. There were experts in tree planting and they put us in the right contact with people and what trees to plant and where. It was hugely beneficial for us.
Hi, I'm Steph Kinchef from Hardwood Management in Rotorua. I've been working as a forester in this Bay of Plenty area for 30 plus years, and the past 10 years been doing a lot of native restoration in wetlands with catchment groups and commercial forestry grade Mānuka plantations for Comvita. There are hundreds of hectares and it's very rewarding. This is my off-sider Rob.
Kia ora, I'm Rob Tiopera, no tūhoi. I'm from the Bay of Plenty, spent 50 plus years in the industry. In the last 10-15 years I've worked alongside Steph with regards to native plantings and around through the catchments throughout the Bay of Plenty.
So in the Bay of Plenty we've been involved with planting maybe 500 hectares of natives in the past 7 or 8 years, and a lot of that's with catchment groups. And it just strikes you between the eyes when you look at or come from a commercial forestry background like myself and see the efficiencies that we can actually render in native plantations using forestry grade systems, 100 per box rather than one in each hand with PBs. $1 something per unit versus $4 or $5 per unit. I mean, the cost just escalates so dramatically using non-forestry grade systems, and there's something like 25,000 hectares in the Bay of Plenty that via catchment groups and community effort and council collaboration we could actually do a huge amount of work, a lot more than with the money that's scarce using forestry grade. And look at the result 5 years on, you wouldn't notice the difference. So the plantation you see behind us is 5 years old now. We did that 5 years ago for approximately 4K a hectare, which places it clearly 10K less expensive than the big pot systems. And across the Bay of Plenty with 25,000 hectares, you just do the maths, that's a potential saving of 250 mil, which is mind-boggling really, just for that change. So farmer-led groups, catchment groups, landowners actually banding together give us the maximum inroads to what we're trying to do. And from there, the efficiencies that we gain, we can sort of get 20,000 trees a day planted and aggregate blocks, and that's where Rob comes in.
Yeah, once we, now we're talking about the efficiencies, it's important to understand the complexities of each stand and the areas that we go into and the prep work that goes into having a plant ready, and having behind us a team of guys that have specialised in this planting methodology that we adopt. And so over time we've managed to put together a really efficient team that arrive working with the forestry grade trees and system, the forestry grade system. They're able to, any time, a recent job for example is 65,000 trees in the ground in 3.5 days, opposed to the larger trees system that we're used to seeing all around the country, taking weeks and weeks and weeks.
We've always said that every farm in New Zealand could have 10% of it planted, and man, imagine the landscape we'd have if that happened in the right spots. A lot of your climate change, your water quality issues, and animal welfare gains would just be rolled into one beautiful solution.
Just coming from an iwi perspective, and having worked along iwi for a very long time, throughout not only the Bay of Plenty but throughout the wider North Island, the taiao was absolutely critical for them, and it's one of the key issues that a lot of the iwi groups have is no one listens to what they want. So between Steph and I, we've built this and developed a system where we go in, we sit down, we have a cup of tea as iwi do, and it might take 2 or 3, but we get to the bottom of what they want and what's important to them. The taiao, the whenua, and making sure that we put together a system that realises their dreams and aspirations for their people and most importantly for the whenua.
G'day, I'm Doug Dibley. I farm here in Rotorua Road, just outside of Nongataha. It's a family farm. I'm 5th generation. My great-great-grandparents actually came and converted it from native bush about 140 years ago. So been in the family a long time. I'm currently share milking in partnership with my sister for our parents, with the idea in the next sort of year or so to purchase the farm off them and obviously keep that succession alive. The farm as it currently stands is about 130 hectares. We're milking 3 cows per hectare, so roughly about sort of 400 to 410 cows. So yeah, been farming here for a number of years. We've obviously seen a lot of changes. With those changes, I guess primarily has been the environmental regulations which have come into play. Where we're standing at the moment is actually a subdivision that we have done as part of our, I guess, land use diversification. We brought this particular block about sort of probably 30 years ago. We'd been leasing it for a number of years prior to that. And Mum and Dad had always sort of had the intention as a diversification opportunity with the farm to subdivide this area on the basis we knew that ultimately things were going to change, regulation were going to come into play to reduce the, I guess, intensification of land use within the Rotorua catchment. So Yeah, this particular piece of land, we started conversations with council over 20 years ago on this land, and I guess our intention to look at subdividing it. They were really supportive of that, and we've been working with them, I guess, for the last 20 years. It's only been the last couple of years that development has actually physically started, but we've been planting in here for probably over 20 years now, to be fair. So when we first took this over as a dairy farm, it was 100% grass. There was not a single plant to be seen in here, except actually there was one gum tree. Since then, we've probably planted easily between 100 to 200,000 plants, I would hazard a guess. And basically every year for the last 20 years over winter, we've been sort of just steadily chipping away at it to the point where I guess now we're scaling that quite rapidly. We're sort of planting probably 20 to 30,000 plants a year. My mum, we've got a little nursery at their house. She actually propagates all of the seeds, from seeds that she seed sources locally. So we grow them all ourselves, which has been a really great, I guess, cost-cutting exercise for us. But it's also a big sense of pride that we can say that all of these plants that you can see around us in varying sort of ages of maturity have all been grown from seeds which have been actually collected from here. So they obviously thrive in this environment, which has been great. In terms of the dairy farm, we obviously are operating under regulation with Lake Rotorua. So our benchmark sort of year 2017, we had to reduce our nitrogen leaching by 10%. That was, I guess, reasonably easy at that point in time. It was just a couple of sort of tweaks around the edges. Even by 2022, when we had to reduce a further 10%, that wasn't too bad. At that point in time, we looked at just tweaking our nitrogen levels. We took maize silage out of our operation. We were growing it as a summer feed, but we don't have a feed pad to feed it, so efficiency of actually feeding in the paddock wasn't great. We took out summer cropping. That also had a bit of an impact, and I guess one of the biggest things we did is we incorporated plantain into our pasture mix, which has got quite a significant reduction in nitrogen leaching from overseer. So those were kind of pretty easy tweaks that we made around the edges. I guess going forward, 2027, we've got another 10% reduction, and then 2032, we've got our final 10% reduction. At the moment, it's probably the thing that keeps me awake at night and consumes a lot of my thought processes, is what does our future farm system look like to achieve that 10% reduction in 27 and a further 10% in 2032. So a lot of change. I've been here share milking for 4 years. In that time we've gone from 520 cows to 480 cows to 460 cows to 430 cows. This coming season we'll be at 400 cows. In a couple of years' time we're likely going to be at 300 cows. So change is probably the number one theme of our sort of tenure here, and I suspect that's not going to change for a number of years. I guess me personally, I've got young kids. I've always grown up fishing on Lake Rotorua. I've got a boat. We go fishing on the lake, so I understand the need to look after the lake. It's just a matter of trying to find what that balance is between farming with the environment that we're operating within. I'm really confident that there is that balance there, or that middle point that we can have both. It's just a matter of sort of finding which all of those pieces of the puzzle fit together to achieve that. One of the big challenges that we face being a generational farm is that a lot of our infrastructure is now getting quite old. As you can imagine, we don't have a state-of-the-art rotary shed. So what we're sort of wanting to do going forward in terms of meeting future regulation, I guess land use diversification is still a pretty key objective. I look at the land as being the asset, and at the moment dairy farming is certainly the most productive return on that asset, but it may not always be the case. I've got a pretty open mindset as to the future of this farm. We are looking probably at some steeper land at retiring that, probably planting some pine trees, going down the carbon sort of credit route for that steeper land. There's also some benefits around health and safety, etc. there. But I guess the future for this farm, I mean, it can be anything and go anywhere really.
Kia ora, my name is Tairo Royal. I am the landowner of this land that you see, which belonged to my parents, my father and mother, who my father acquired the land when he returned from World War II in 1948. He was part of the 28th Māori Battalion, and their names were put into a ballot, and him and his brother were very fortunate to acquire neighbouring properties. It was, funnily enough, covered in manuka when he acquired it, so that was all cut away and the land was prepared for pasture, for beef and sheep. And so we've kind of come the whole circle, I guess. Because of our lakes and because of the pollution that stock leaches into the lakes, we as a family decided to do a land use change and move away from farming and plant the entire property in Manuka. With the help of the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, we were able to do that. Otherwise it would have been an impossible task. Moving away from farming and planting, it was a whānau decision. Being only second generation farmers, it was an easy decision for us to make. The most important thing as a whānau, as a collective, we wanted the health of our waters to be was primary. That and looking after the whenua. So we planted the whole property in Manuka. We started in 2019, so over a 2-year period in between lockdowns of COVID, and now the trees are 5-6 years old now, so they're doing really well. Growing up on this property, a lot of my nieces and nephews and even the mokopuna are wanting to come home now. When we decided we wanted to do a land use change, we didn't want to go into pine, although we do have some pine on the property which has been planted earlier on. We wanted a predominantly native species on the property, and Manuka seemed the logical choice because you can get a return from it if you go into honey, which we are eventually. You can get a return, and also a nursery crop for establishing other native trees, which we can slowly see are starting to make a comeback. So our land size here is 140 hectares and it straddles both Rotorua and the Lake Okaraka catchment. So as a result of planting all of that property in Manuka, we actually take out over 6,000 kgs of nitrogen per year out of the soil. So this land use change was quite a challenging thing, and being a second generation landowner or farmer, or not even a farmer really, I'm a dancer, so and choreographer. So, this whole land use change thing was a huge thing for me. I was approached by a guy called Andy Dick, and so he was brought on board through the regional council, and he played a huge part in initiating this whole land use change. So he contacted me with a lot of other people and a lot of other organisations because turning 140 hectares of pasture and gorse-ridden land into the beautiful thing that it is now took a whānau of people, of organisations to help me with that. So, we had companies like Hardwood Management who looked after the whole pest control thing, like the gorse and the wallabies. We also, who else did we get on board? Oh, Manuka Farming, they help with supplying all the seedlings. It's about over 160,000 seedlings on this property, so, I wasn't going to get out there and plant them all myself. So we had a gang of people come on and help do that over a week or so.
I'm Trish Hosking. I farm 50 hectares. It's a beef farm on the Waititi stream. I bought it 40 years ago. When I first bought it, the wind was so strong at times you could barely stand up. There were no trees whatsoever on the property, and there were no birds, which really worried me. So one of the first things I did was start planting trees. I planted trees along every fence line. I erected a mix of shelter trees and shade trees and exotic trees and natives as well. It's been really beneficial for the stock. The stock have had shade and shelter. It's been really beneficial for the wildlife. The birds have come back. The other thing I did was plant a 5-hectare pine block on an inaccessible part of the farm that I could just shut the gate and walk away from. And that's now about 30 years old and it's earning carbon credits. And I've also planted an enormous number of trees along the Waititi stream. And I've become more and more worried over the years about climate change. And so I've started planting up 4 hectares so far of natives, and this is on good agricultural land that most farmers would say, what on earth are you doing? But to me it's become essential. It's a major priority for me to reduce my stock numbers and have less impact on the climate and on the waterways. The area that I planted in natives is a very low-lying area, and I wanted to recreate the wetland that was there, obviously, 100 years ago. So I blocked the drains and planted a lot of wetland trees. I reared, bought in 4-day-old calves and reared 120 bulls every year, and they went off at 20 months at 600 kgs. So it was quite intensive farming. I've since changed now to farming steers and heifers and have reduced my numbers quite significantly in order to reduce my impact on the environment and on waterways. What I have learned over the years is that trees don't take up much space, they're affordable, and they have enormous benefits. They've reduced emissions, reduced nitrogen leaching and phosphate runoff. They've reduced erosion and stopped sedimentation from entering the lake. They slow down floodwater. They provide stock food, shade and shelter and timber, and habitats and berries and nectar for wildlife. They've brought back the birds and the birdsong and made the farm more profitable and sustainable. And they create beauty in the landscape. We should never underrate how important the environment and trees are to our mental health, particularly for farmers who live and work on our properties. When I think about climate change, planting trees helps reduce my anxiety. They add joy and happiness to my life and improve the lives of my cattle. And I know they make other people happy too. My neighbours often say they love looking out at my arboretum.
Hi, I'm Megan. This is my dad Shane. This is our family farm. Grandparents bought it back in the 80s. Now it's just short of 300 hectares. We're in the Okara catchment, right next to Lake Okara, so a fairly sensitive area. We milk 430 cows once a day all season. Mum and Dad live on farm. My husband and I have 4 kids, so that makes 4 generations still actively involved in the farming. My brother is also, he lives off farm with his family, but he's very involved with the day-to-day running of the farm as well. So it's still very much a family-run farm, all about family here. Kids out with us every chance we get. So our goal is to farm in a way that means that we can still be here in another generation.
The Lake Okara catchment is five farms, 360 hectares in the catchment. 60 hectares of our dairy farm is in the Okara catchment. The rest is out at Lake Rotorua and the Recloaking side. Back in 2004 we were capped and started to work closely with Environment Bay of Plenty. Developed quite a substantial wetlands and some front paddocks, on some flat paddocks right in front of Lake Okara, which now takes all the water out of the catchment, which comes through our property from our neighbouring properties and into the wetlands that we developed. So this has become like a kidney for Lake Okara. Been quite a bit of development in the last 20 years since my wife and I bought the property off my parents. Obviously the wetlands was the first part of it. Built 2 herd homes back in 07. Yeah, 07 and 09. And that they have been a huge part of the change in our farming systems. Pretty much fully self-contained now. Another big part of it was actually oversowing the whole farm in chicory and plantain. So that was just either flowing on or trucked on the seed with our fertiliser, so no drilling or anything, just a straight oversow. Yeah, massive part of going forward, getting a big diversity of pasture on our steeper, harder country. So probably the next big move for us was actually a once a day, going to once a day, taking a reasonably high empty rate and probably a lower efficiency cow out of the system. We've now mainly crossbred herd, a lot lighter, so we've pulled back live weight quite a bit, but actually trying to feed these, especially our young stock, out well.
So we do have a relatively complex farm. It's a heavy Rotomahana mud at the front, and it's a sort of a lighter Kaharoa ash out the back. We have about a third of it steep, a third rolling, and I think we'd scrape a third flats together maybe. We still milk off some fairly steep country out the back with the milkers, so we do have to manage that a little bit. Their biggest walk they've got to do to get out to those back paddocks is 3 k's just to the paddock, and Halter tells us on those days those girls walk up to 12 k's out to the paddock, harvesting feed and then home again. So, you know, big country, big walks.
Originally we were milking well over 500 cows. We have since dropped our numbers by 100 head. Still producing pretty close to the same production, and now we're obviously on once a day.
So I think over the years we have made a conscious effort to reduce our fertiliser use, especially synthetic nitrogen. It has taken us a few years to drop that nice and slowly because we didn't want to shock the system. We wanted our grass to adjust to not being spoon-fed nutrients, so it had to work hard for itself. Do a lot of soil testing just to monitor what's actually missing out of the soil and try and balance everything. In terms of the amount of grass we've grown, we haven't seen reductions that you would expect through pulling that nitrogen. Because we've done it slowly, the grass has had time to adjust. We can't say that through pulling nitrogen we've had a 20% reduction in grass growth, because we haven't. In fact, I think we're getting a higher quality, more energy dense feed through making sure the small things like magnesium and calcium and boron are all balanced. So we've seen some pretty positive improvements there. Another one of the big changes we've implemented is we've started in November sowing a multi-species crop. So we can grow a big ton of feed with no fertiliser. That's made up of up to 22 species. They all work in combination together and grow this beautiful crop. So we've used that to defer feed into February when we normally have a pinch, because we can't mow a whole lot of our sidelings. So you do the multi-species crop, and then you go back in and plant the paddocks into diverse permanent pastures. So different clovers, chicory, timothy, cocksfoot, like just heaps of different things that all work together. So we've been going through that process 10, 20, 30 hectares a year, trying to get the whole farm changed over to diverse permanent pastures. Really get that resilient feed ahead of us, so that we can build resilience coming into droughts or coming into wet springs, or we're always going to have a species of grass there that's going to perform well. So that's where we're kind of heading to from here. A lot of what we're doing is we're testing too, so we're doing soil tests and we're doing pasture tests just to see where those limitations are, so that we can fill in those gaps. Something that's been massively game changer for us is putting all this data into AI to analyse. So we can put in the soil tests, the grass samples, and even the cow blood tests, and get it to tell a story. So AI is a fantastic tool for farmers to be able to put all those little pieces together and analyse it without an ulterior motive. AI is not trying to sell you fertiliser. It's not trying to sell you grass seed. It's not trying to sell you cow minerals. It's just putting that data together, putting out a result. What you do with that result's up to you. So we've been using that quite a bit to tell the story of where we can go from here and how we can top things up that need topping up. So the last 5 years has definitely been a lot of learning. There's been times where we've felt like we've been floundering. You know, we did struggle for the knowledge and the team around us originally, but as time goes on, we're sort of surrounding ourselves with those people that have a slightly different way of looking at farming. You've just got to bring all that knowledge in from your vet and your consultant and everyone and act as a team and make sure you really surround yourself with people that are on the same page. Going forward, there's some great groups out there that are really pushing that resilience in farming and making sure people are still going to be here in the years to come.
Yeah, well, I've been 45 years, like I say, dairy farming, it's all I know. But I think the last 5 years has been really positive, really positive. Yeah, I'm actually quite excited about the future for the farm and my family. So.